Alright, hello there, thrill seekers. That song was called LSD, in case you couldn't figure it out, and it was by the Sick Kids, who were part of the sort of garage psychedelic scene that I was also part of when I was putting out those Dementia 13 records in the mid-1980s. It's about the same era. And for once, I've chosen a song that has to do with the theme of today's video, and also I've chose a t-shirt too. I found that at a Marshall's store in Riverside, I think. Anyway, I thought it was pretty funny. But I wanted today to review a Netflix series that is getting a lot of traction these days, and it's called How to Change Your Mind, and it is based on this book, Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, same title. And I actually was kind of interested in this book. I was interested enough that I found out it was coming out when I was on tour, and I wanted to get it right away, so I special ordered it from a Foyles bookstore. There's a little receipt. I think there's only one Foyles. Anyway, Foyles is a big giant bookstore in London, and I ordered it from Foyles in London so I would get it on time, and also in the British cover, which I think is a lot better. The American cover is just sucks. It's just terrible, but the British cover is kind of attractive. So I was interested in this book, but if you'll see, this Foyles thing is right at about page 74, and I bought this book several years ago, whenever it came out. Let's find out. 2018, so I must have bought it in 2018, and since 2018, that's as far as I got, page 74, and that's kind of my same feeling about the Netflix series. So whenever I see a documentary about a subject that I already know a little bit about, and right at the beginning there is, or any time in the documentary, but this one happens at the beginning, there is, somebody says something that I know to be not true, then I'm going to have a hard time really accepting anything else that the documentary has to say. And in this case, right at the beginning of the documentary, Michael Pollan makes a statement that is patently untrue, which is, he says that there was a lot of research and such like experiments and things into the therapeutic and medical uses of psychedelic drugs between their original discovery in the late 1940s and around the mid-1960s, when the war on drugs, well, I don't think the war on drugs was called that, but when they became illegal in the mid-60s. But, he says, it's impossible, it's near impossible to find that information anymore because it's buried, and he had to do a ton of research to find out what he is going to present now in this series. That's not true. That is completely not true, and I know this because I got very interested in psychedelics a long time before Michael Pollan did, in the early 80s when I was a college student, and I found out all about these experiments in therapeutic use of psychedelics and such like in those days, in the early 80s, and all I had access to was a library with a card catalog, like a real card catalog with actual little index cards in it that you had to flip through. And I managed to go to the library and find lots and lots of articles. High Times magazine published some articles about it. It was easy to find. It was really easy. I went to used bookstores. I found some books about the subject from the past. And it was easy to find that information. And he didn't present anything in the first two episodes that I hadn't already read about years ago. But he's telling us that he's done some diligent research to find this because it's been hidden. It's not hidden. You can go on YouTube and find videos of people in the 40s and 50s, housewives and things, taking LSD and giving their experiences of it and things like that. They're kind of interesting. And soldiers being dosed with LSD, you can find that. You go on YouTube, search for it. You're on YouTube right now. You can go look for it. So he starts off with something that I know to be untrue. I don't know if he is trying to pretend that he's stupid, or if he thinks you, the audience, are stupid, or maybe he's just stupid. He wrote for big commercial magazines and things, and I don't have a lot of respect for writers who write for big commercial magazines because they seem perpetually clueless to me. But that's just an aside. That's just a general feeling I have for people who write for mainstream magazines and things. They just seem like they don't know anything about anything. Anyhow, I've watched 2 episodes, and the 2 episodes that I've watched so far seem to be like exact copies of each other. So I don't know if I'm even going to continue watching the series. Maybe if I do and I feel differently, maybe I'll do a follow-up. But the first 2 episodes are the same episode twice. And one is about LSD, like the song that I just sang you. And the second one is about psilocybin, which is the ingredient in so-called magic mushrooms. And he does the same thing in each episode, or in these 2 episodes, which is he tells you about all the research, all the hidden research that they had to so diligently find, that I was able to find by walking to the library. He tells you about all that diligent research he's done in the subject and what things have been done in the past. He shows you how the drug in question can be used to cure all sorts of things, from obsessive-compulsive disorder, depression, anxiety, fear of death in cancer patients, what else? Enhancing creativity, and there's absolutely no downside at all to any of this. Everything is wonderful, and it's perfect, and you just take this drug and you're cured. Yay. So that's the first part. And then the second part is he tells you about his experience on the drug. And when I watched the psilocybin episode, when it came to that part, I just switched it off after about a minute, because everybody's story of the incredible experience they had while on drugs, where the ego died and they were free and everything was wonderful and they were one with the universe. Every one of those stories is exactly the same. And by the way, everybody's story of their moment of enlightenment through meditation is the same thing. They're boring, and I don't care, and I don't want to hear those stories anymore. I don't know, maybe somebody needs to hear those stories because they don't know it's even possible, but I just think they're boring. Now, one of the things that a series like this does is something that Michael Pollan in the series itself decries while doing it. He tells the story of how, I've forgotten the name, some researcher in the 50s went down to Mexico and did a psilocybin mushroom, a religious psilocybin mushroom trip that was done by an indigenous woman who had learned the secrets of the mushroom, passed on generation through generation in defiance of the Catholic Church and all this stuff. And this guy wrote an article about it that appeared in Life magazine, and I think other accounts of the same thing appeared in other popular magazines. And because of that, people descended on this town in Mexico, basically hippies and trippers and people who just wanted to, have this great experience. And it got so bad that this woman became hated in her town, and the villagers burned her house down and all this stuff because she brought all these horrible people into their little community. And basically, it's what happens when the stuff becomes commercialized and becomes, put out there as a panacea for everything, and everybody descends upon it. So Michael Pollan is doing exactly the same thing. He's putting this show out on Netflix, and he's putting out this book, and he's making a case for how wonderful these drugs are and how they fix everything. And of course, it's going to bring lots of people to go to the places. And look, if you spend $3,000 or $5,000, I forgot how much I heard they cost, dollars, to go on an ayahuasca trip, in South America, don't think that you're part of that indigenous culture, and don't think that you're partaking in something. You're not part of that culture. You don't understand what the holistic thing that it is that those trips are. All you're doing is tripping out and having a groovy experience, and fine, wonderful. The commercialization is what kills all this. The commercialization is killing meditation too. So, there you go. And maybe I'm part of that by putting these videos out, but I try to put a better class of video out than most people put out about meditation. Also, with these things, there's no follow-up to it. So if you're part of a culture that does these drug trips for religious purposes, there's a whole, it's not just you take the drug and you trip out and you have a good time and then you go back to your normal life playing video games and working at the office and whatnot. It's not like that. There's a whole thing to it, and you're not getting any of that. The other thing is, it kind of plays on the American obsession, I think, or fixation, I don't know what word to call it, with drugs. You know, we're a really druggy culture. This I learned by living outside of the US for a significant period of my life in Africa and a significant period of my life in Japan. The Japanese are kind of following us in a way into the pharmaceutical madness, but they're not quite as far along. At least they weren't when I was over there. Who knows what's going on now, as we are. But we really have this idea that a drug can fix everything, and you know, this is how we've allowed the giant pharmaceutical companies to basically take over our governments, as we've seen in the past 2 years, how much influence they have and how they can basically write their own laws and write their own mandates and force you to take their drugs. You know, it's pretty incredible how America has become like this. And our fixation on drugs is probably part of the deep materialism that is in American culture, because we think an object is going to fix us. There was some guru, I think, who talked to Ram Dass and said that the avatar is the incarnation of God in the Hindu system, that since America is such a materialistic culture, the avatar has to appear in the form of a material substance, aka LSD and drugs. I'm not sure that's an avatar, but anyway, that's what he said. So there you go. That's about all I can say about the show. You know, if you want a show on Netflix about hallucinogenic drugs, I thought there was a show I watched a couple of years ago called Have a Good Trip that was on Netflix, and that was actually much more entertaining than How to Change Your Mind. I think maybe because it was far less pretentious. It was far less of a guy there, you know, with his bald head and his wisdom, and I wrote for New York Times and I'm going to tell you how wonderful this stuff is. It was a lot less of that and a lot more just kind of funny, weird stories and some fun animation, which I thought was much more entertaining. I may watch the rest of the series, I don't know. But for now, that's my opinion. I turned the last episode I watched off before it was finished because it was so boring. But there you go, you might enjoy it, who knows. Anyway, I'm going to Europe, and the events are appearing on your screen. I'll be in Finland, Germany, Belgium, France, and England, and there are some more dates appearing. I haven't put them on the list yet. I'll try to get them up today. I'm going to be speaking at Bar U in Turku on August 31st. That's Turku, Finland, at 5 p.m. I'm doing another talk in Helsinki, but I haven't got the name and address of the place, and I think that's September 1st. It's a Sunday. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll try to get those up, and there's probably some more dates coming up. So check back in on hardcorezen.info/events. That is where you can find an up-to-date list of where I will be with clickable links to go find out more information. And if you want information on how to support me, you can go to the URL you are seeing on the screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main ways of making a living, and I appreciate your support. As I've been saying, I will get paid for most of the events that I'm doing, not all of them, in Europe. But even though I am getting paid, it's not going to be enough to support me, and so I still depend on your donations, so thank you for that. But as always, this is offered for free, so you don't gotta pay if you don't want to pay. We will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Don't trip out. Whoa. Alright, there's your Ziggy cameo. He didn't want to come out because it's too hot. He's right, it is too hot. He's sleeping on his little cool spot on the floor, and he looks like a little fox. See you later, Ziggy.